Okay, welcome back. Damon Hart here with the Real Men of Real Estate, Mr. Foxy, and I'm here with Jose Hernandez.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, buddy. So, okay, we were just talking a little bit about your experience and what you felt were some of the core principles of real estate. But I want to hear more about your story. How is it that you even got into real estate? Why real estate? And how was that getting going?
Yeah, so well, we live in a generation where you can, with the click of a button, find out a lot of information. And I was looking at other ways to just make money because I realized graphic design or any other studies in art wasn't really going to pay off unless you were really good at it. And so I was just okay. I liked it, but it wasn't going to pay the bills. And so I realized how much freedom we had as a family with just owning, purchasing, really owning real estate, that I figured, well, if my dad did it with having no knowledge and it took him this long, like you said, kind of going back to what we were talking about, the fact that I was born here, I already have an advantage. I know the language, I can study, I have the time that they couldn't originally, and so that they gave us to us, and just study up. And so I figured as I was watching more videos, that I could learn this, and as long as I'm with the right mentorship and guidance, I can make this happen. And there's so many other stories that I've heard that why not me? Like what's stopping from me actually being able to do this?
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I kind of got into it. And plus it pays pretty well.
I appreciate you keeping it real and being a capitalist, right? Because let's face it, in the real estate business, and there's a lot of different facets, but I have yet to discover anywhere in my professional career where if you put in the time and you learn the skill set, there's so many different ways that you can get into facets of real estate, and you can earn profit. And I don't know if that's true for a lot of other professions, because if you want to be a doctor, right? Yeah. You want to be a doctor, you got to go to school for almost 10 years, right?
Minimum.
A lawyer, you know? And I have yet to see any other profession other than real estate where you learn certain skills and you can make a really good living for yourself. Yeah. And let's keep it real. The reason most people get into this business is to help people as much as they can, and you become someone that's like a value in the community, don't you think?
No, absolutely. Essentially, aside from the money, there's really low barrier to entry into real estate if you make it seem that way, because the only thing that's stopping you is if having the right guidance. Or for me, I decided to take a different avenue, which was just become a real estate agent and learn the aspects of purchasing and understanding the lingo in it, so that seeing what investors are looking for, so that I could be of value, so that when I eventually have the capital, or I've learned enough, or I'm comfortable or confident to take that step, that I know what to expect and how to talk and negotiate and people skills. Because essentially something that I found as I was going to school, we lacked a lot of just people skills, finance, paying your taxes. Like none of that is really talked about unless you actually take extra courses on it. And that's fundamental to our lives. If we don't do our taxes right, we get hammered on that. If we don't pay our things on time or control our debt, it's gonna hit us in the rear end. So that's something that I found is actually important to me, and that I like and that I enjoy learning about. So it's easy.
Yeah, and you pick that up in real estate, obviously, as a practice,
naturally,
right? Yeah, because you're talking to people about their finances. You're seeing and getting people ready to purchase homes. You're getting them ready to get into those kinds of things. I love it. So I can personally agree with that in my experience too. I think real estate was the one thing that I didn't know early on. I mean, I was just a kid that played Monopoly growing up, and I just thought it was super cool. No, so you did too.
It's funny how if I have kids, I'm gonna have them play that, because it's just something that kind of ties into the real world. I mean, that's the closest game that I could find that will be near and dear, where you're actually valuing the money and seeing how powerful it is when you own property and become a tycoon. It's like, that's the reality of things.
That's real. Yeah. And you just want to stay away from the ugly purple ones. But even those make money, Jose.
Exactly.
Right? So, okay, I'm with you, man. My thing back then, I used to just buy up all like the middle ones, the kind of like the orange and the reds. I would buy those up as fast as I could, and I would just wait for people to just come through and just hammer them.
Thank you, give me my money.
Yeah. And then eventually I'd foreclose. But
that's just part of it too. Yeah. There's risk involved as well.
But. Yeah, you just can't foreclose on your mom. That was the only deal.
No.
Yeah, everybody else gets a foreclosure notice except for mom, because because you'd be smart. You'd be stupid to do that.
Yeah,
sure.
You wouldn't want to disappoint that.
Cool, man. All right, great. So yeah, so walk us through the journey when it comes to getting into the business, because I get this question a lot too. From especially, how old are you?
22.
22.
Yeah,
right. Younger
22.
person getting going, and they say, okay, well, what should I do, Damon? Should I quit my job? Should I just quit my job and just get into the business? Because I really see the opportunity. What do I do? What's your what would be your feedback to that or
sure,
advice?
Yeah, this kind of hits home because originally I had just my background is I always go into something and I want to do it 100%. I don't like going halfway and just, having one foot in and 1 foot out.
Right.
So I was a meat cutter previously from this. I studied, got my license previously.
What's a meat cutter? What were you doing?
Well, people call it as a butcher.
Yeah.
I don't see myself as a butcher because a butcher takes skill when you're actually processing the cattle, and that's something that I don't want to put my hat on. I'm just a cutter. I'm just cleaning up the nice steaks and presenting them for the store. And so
right on.
That's how I see myself. And
you're cutting the meat.
Cutting the meat. I go to restaurants and I know what to order now. So I don't have to get the typical filet mignon and pay extra when I can get something else. And so you pick up things too.
Okay.
So I was doing that, and I found myself in a very fortunate position in which we don't have any major bills or any mortgage that we have to pay. And I remember having the conversation with my dad, and my dad's pretty much the backbone of all of my decisions that I've made, because he reassures me. He's like, look, like the fact that you have time, take advantage of it. You have no responsibilities. You have no kids. I'm in a fortunate position where some of you that are hearing this might not be in, but that's still no excuse where if you really want to take that leap of faith, you can learn a lot within a year.
Yeah.
So 6 months, I took off time from work. I've saved enough money, and eventually actually went back to work as a part-time gig because I figured out my schedule and realized, okay, I could work around this, and managed to close my first year, 4 deals, whereas statistically speaking, as a real estate agent, you don't really close that many, maybe 1 or 2 and break even. So that was my process. I would definitely say you can keep your job, keep the money coming in, especially if you have more responsibilities, because otherwise you're going to be in a position where a lot of people might, break from it. Not everybody can become a diamond under pressure. And so don't fall into that notion and just understand it's okay to have a backup or to have money coming in. Like, never be afraid from that. You're feeding your family. You're taking care of what needs to be done. Sure. And that's it. Sure.
So I can tell you that that was like a huge quote. Like, not everybody can be a diamond under pressure.
That's
because
okay.
Even though I did that, that's what I asked that question. I was one of those people that, Jose, I said, I'm out of here. I left my job and I went out into the workplace and I went into entrepreneurship thinking I'm going to be the boss.
Right.
And you know what happened? I ended up getting into foreclosure. Okay. I had just bought my first house, ended up bankruptcy 2 years later for me and my wife. And what you realize looking back on it, because I'm older now, you put yourself in such a really tough position just for the sake of saying, okay, I'm all in. You can be all in with the time that you have, and you're saying that was real for you. And I think that's really great advice, brother.
Yeah, for some people it might have taken a little longer, but I realized 6 months into it, great, I've learned what I needed to do, but there's no reason for me to continue putting myself in this situation when I can be in a better situation and be a little bit more calm and stress free and having that income in which, I wouldn't have if I would have just let my ego get in the way and saying, oh, I'm going to become that, I can handle this. Like, I don't need to have my job. Like, I'm 100% in. Just focus on yourself. Don't focus on what other people are thinking, because that's something that I had to let go of. I was very big on that, and so I'm okay. The people were asking me, oh, well, why'd you go back? Did it not work out? I'm like, no, it works out. Like, I'm just closing up a deal right now, and I'm working this, and so I'm making both work, and that's okay.
Right. So it sounds like working on your plan, but also working on your vision as well.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're putting the both two together. It's like, hey, this is
part
of the plan.
You have to build it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no way you're gonna build a ship within a day or a week. It's something that you're gonna have to gradually build, and there's gonna be setbacks.
Yeah.
And you have to be ready for that. And if you don't have something to like money wise, if you have to pay some of the bills, and a deal that you thought was going to go through didn't go through, what are you going to do? And that's the reality that I faced, where I had many deals going through that could have gone and it went south. And so I'm like, you know what? I think this is a better option. And for somebody else, I get asked that too. Like, oh, what should I do? Should I invest in this? Should I do that? I'm like, before you even think of any of it, just keep what you're doing already, and then just learn little bit by little. And if anything, go with the right mentorship and guidance, because that's what's going to save you ultimately a lot of money and headaches, because they've gone through it already before.
So we're gonna get a deep dive into the mentor and guidance, because I often think in real estate and in business in general.
I think in anything really.
Right, right. You need that, right? Especially if you want to be successful.
100%.
So real quick, closing out. Let me just ask you one thing. What do you think has had the most impact on you so far? 30 seconds. What's been the most impactful strategy that you've used so far in you think being successful in this real estate thing?
Well, you have to have there's no end goal, because you always end up putting something ahead of that if you accomplish it. But that vision, the why, and it's cliche and you hear it everywhere, but it's truly, you're gonna be in a corner, you're gonna be in a position in which you're gonna be like, you know what, I want to back out. It's like, this is not right for me, and you have to look back and answer that question to yourself and say, well, why did I get in it in the first place? And if that's not powerful enough, if that doesn't motivate you enough, then you got to find another thing. Ultimately, that's what's kept me going. So
keep the vision.
Keep the vision alive, and answer that for yourself. That's something that you have to answer and find yourself.
Beautiful. Yeah. All right. So, guys, we're going to take a quick break and come back with Jose, and we'll jump right into the next segment. Stay tuned.